Hello everyone, Chris Guthrie here, host of Sellercast, and in today's episode I have Brian Jones on. I'm really excited about today's episode because Brian's been selling since 2003, and he started selling leg lamps from the movie A Christmas Story. And then a few years later, he bought the house from the movie A Christmas Story and then leveraged that into a relationship with Warner Brothers. And then he also then moved on to selling products from Christmas Vacation. So two popular 80s Christmas movies, and his entire business is based on those movies and selling products that are related to them. So it's going to be a lot of fun, great episode. Brian does about 50% of his product sales through Amazon and then the other 50% through his own e-commerce store. So for those of you that are thinking about, hey, I'd like to eventually get an e-commerce store going, Brian started the other way with an e-commerce store and then moved on to Amazon. But this can give you some ideas as to what you can do as you scale your e-commerce business. And also it's a fun story just because he's talking about these movies that I personally enjoy and that I believe that many of you will enjoy as well. So let's start the show. Hello everyone, Chris Guthrie here, and with me I have Brian Jones from achristmasstoryhouse.com and a few others. Brian, welcome to the show.
Hey, how's it going? Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks. I'm doing well, and it's nice to speak with you again. I know we'd spoken first several years ago, and it's just nice to reconnect and see how business is going, and also for you to share your story with a new set of people. So, what other sites are you running beyond the one I just mentioned?
We run several proprietary sites. There's the Christmas Story House is basically about the house. And before I had the house, we ran a site, redriderleglamps.com, was about selling leg lamps and other Christmas story memorabilia. That now serves as a gift shop off of achristmasstoryhouse.com. And then later on, I think in 2008, I got into Christmas Vacation, so we opened up christmasvacationcollectibles.com. And then just this past couple of years, we basically had a lot of vendors where they were selling other products, but we were just buying either their Christmas story or Christmas vacation items, and realized, well, we could buy other stuff and sell that too. So we opened up a site called ClevelandStreetNovelties.com. Obviously, the name Cleveland Street coming from A Christmas Story. And the house is on good old Cleveland Street when they introduced it in the beginning of the movie. So we're doing that, and then of course we sell on Amazon and eBay under those IDs and storefronts. So that's why we're doing it.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, and so I do want to backtrack too and talk about how you even got into this niche. I know you've been doing it for quite some time, and as you mentioned, just going into different, going into a separate movie in 2008. So can you tell us how you got into selling these types of Christmas memorabilia in the first place?
Well, I always wanted to be a jet pilot all my life. My dad was a pilot in the Navy, and I thought that would be really cool to fly an F-18 around the skies. So I studied hard in school, went to the Naval Academy, on to flight school, and failed the vision test. I got reassigned to be an intelligence officer, which wasn't quite, what I had planned or dreamed in life, and was disappointed. So my parents kind of, the gag gift, cheer you up kind of deal, made me a leg lamp or something to me. And I just thought it was pretty funny, and, nobody made them. And but I had 5 years to the Navy, so I went off to my first tour, and then I was in my second tour, and decided I wanted to get out, and I was looking at all kinds of things, and going to work for a corporation seemed just as bad as being in the Navy, if not worse. So, and I'd always just heard running your own business was the deal. Any guys you'd ever talked to had done well or had a good adventure or great stories, had run their own business. But I didn't really know anybody in business, so I just kind of was like, well, what can I do? And it just dawned on me one day, I should sell leg lamps. One of my parents and Navy people had always enjoyed it. So that's one from A Christmas Story. So still in the Navy, I just started moonlighting as tooling together leg lamps out of my condo, and selling them on eBay. eBay was a much bigger deal back then. We're talking like '03, than it is today. It's still a good platform. There's a lot of other places out there. The internet was still relatively new, especially for e-commerce and people starting to trust it. So that took off, did well, and I left the Navy next year to do it full time, and haven't looked back since.
Yeah, so I want to dive into more of that in a little bit, but I'm curious too. I mean, everyone I talk to, for the most part, that starts a business, they always start doing it on the side, right? And they build it up to a point where they can either quit their job, or they decide, okay, let's hire someone else to help run the business while they're still running their job before they ultimately leave. But I'm really interested in how you actually were building these leg lamps. Were you sourcing parts to construct them, or are you doing them in some sort of a handmade type thing? Or I'm kind of curious what you're doing for that.
I was sourcing the parts in the U.S. from a couple different places, but everybody I would talk to is like, oh, we can't do this, or that's going out of business because it's all being made in China. It's all being made in China. It's all being made in China. everything's made in China. I'm like, it didn't take me too long to figure out I should probably have my lamps made in China. So I actually got the lamp assembled, better looking, the second year, delivered for like almost half what it would cost me to buy the parts in the U.S. and then put it together myself. So
Yeah.
It was a no-brainer. I was making them myself for parts, that I find, but then it's like I'd spent all my time doing that in order to grow the business. I needed to get out of that and into running more things and having somebody else actually build them. So having them made in China was the way to go.
And so how did you actually find your first supplier in that way then? I mean, I'm trying to recall back if there was, was Alibaba, sounds terrible to ask, but was Alibaba a big force as it is today in terms of finding suppliers, or did you find it some other way?
Truth be told, in the back of Inc. magazine, they used to have those little newspaper square ads, and there was a little one that said, "Entrepreneurs, get your stuff made in China." So I just called the guy up, started talking to him, and sent him a sample, and he found me a factory in China to have it made, with the improvements that I wanted to it.
Wow.
So people are like, "Oh, do you know somebody? Was it this? How'd you have to go about China?" I'm like, I just helped some guy in Chicago, had a little ad at the back of the magazine. I got lucky, to be honest. The guy's great. He actually is still my factory broker to this day.
Wow.
For anything new he makes. So, yeah.
That's great. Okay, so that's how you got started. You were doing it on the side, got out of the Navy, and then things started doing pretty well. How did you take it from that part-time business and then start to scale it and grow from there?
Well, I definitely recommend don't just quit your job and roll out and I'm going to run a great business. You need to moonlight as it or know or be in the industry before you do that, because you'll run out of money right quick. Cash flow won't go so well. Nobody knows who you are. You're not going to index your product well or beat anybody who's already in the market right out of the gate. It's going to take a little while to develop up. But for me, we basically plowed all the money back into the business at first. We lived on my wife's salary. She was in the Navy as well. After I got out, she stayed in, and the business would, money made by the business would go back into the business, which is, again, why you don't quit your job right out of the gate. And as it grew, it took me, probably 4, maybe 5 years before, I really felt like it was on its own and we could actually take money out of it and not put it all back into making it work.
Okay. Yeah, and so sometime along the way, you ended up buying the house from the movie A Christmas Story, right?
Yeah, that was actually the second year of the business. It was going really well. I was newly out of the Navy. The captain of my wife's ship, while they're on deployment to the Middle East, noticed the thing, told her about it on eBay. She emailed me 4 or 5 days later, not thinking anything of it, and I immediately bought it within less than 24 hours of knowing about it. I saw it in the evening, contacted the guys through eBay that I wanted to buy. I was serious, called me next morning, offered him $150,000 for it. He sold it to me. It was all mine.
That's awesome. That is a good lesson in reinvesting the profits, right? You said year 2, and it took you 4 to 5 years before you went, before you could finally start pulling out capital, I guess.
And we had some debt too on that, because it was back in the day when real estate was going through the roof. So then you had a pulse, they'd give you a line of credit for whatever the equity was in your house. So when I bought the house for a Christmas Story, I had to take the equity out of my condo in order to keep the business running, because that cost basically all the money I'd made. And that's part of the reinvesting. It's like, if this is a great opportunity, I'm going to take, instead of taking some money out, I'm going to put the money back in and take some more money out on the loan in order to keep the business going and growing. That's
great. Yeah. So you bought the house, and then how long did it take for you to, what was your initial plan? Obviously it was, okay, I'm selling these leg lamps already, and now if I buy this house, there's some value there in terms of the brand you're trying to build. But what was your initial idea in terms of why you're buying the house and what your plans were for it, both then and then also now today?
Leg lamps were selling really well, so I just figured, and I was always curious about the house. A little bit of a fan, but also seeing very, a good business move and a natural extension of the business. I'm selling Christmas Story leg lamps. Why not, do something with a Christmas Story house? First, the first thing that pops in your head is bed and breakfast. I was like, no, not that. And then maybe a museum. I was going to make the house just look like it did outside, be a museum inside. But then when I got there, it was really cool. I was like, wow, I felt like I was on the set. I ran in the backyard. There's the shed, cruising around, just checking out. Wow, it's a Christmas Story house. And that's when it dawned on me, what if it was restored both outside and inside, and you could basically go visit and walk through the Parker's house? And so that's what I did with it. And then I bought the house across the street, and that served as a museum. where you can see all the props, costumes, and stuff that we've collected over the years from the movie.
That's awesome. That's great. And so along the way too, you were able to, when you first started out, you weren't actually officially licensed to sell the leg lamps, right? You were just kind of, what were you actually calling them? Were you just calling them leg lamp?
I had a couple of letters back and forth with Warner Brothers, who owns A Christmas Story. Basically, hey, I'd like to be licensed. I want to do this. Here's my plan. And it just didn't get to the right department, and I got scripted kind of, what if you ever make money, we'll be interested in the meantime, we own all the rights. I'm like, yes, I know that, which basically it's kind of getting blown off, because I'm sure they get lots of letters from lots of people. I want a license, and people don't realize, the tens of thousands of dollars in royalties that are, the percentages guaranteed over this and that you have to pay. Probably the time when I start now, I'm like, yeah, I can't really afford that, but I still want it. So it just, basically when the house became a big deal and they could kind of see I was serious about it and moving forward, then I got in touch with the right lady at Warner Brothers who had been doing the licensing for A Christmas Story. And, I told her, hey, I've been trying to get in contact. Say, oh, well, hey, here I am. Let's do a deal. So we did a deal, and, now we're officially licensed for both Christmas Story and Christmas Vacation. So
that's great. And those are both the same movie studio, right? Warner Brothers?
Right, yeah, that's why it was easy. Once I had a Christmas Story license, and we later decided to do Christmas Vacation, I just, hey, can you add this to my contract? And, sure, here you go.
Okay, and so then if you were trying to give advice to someone that was interested in doing licensed products, whether or not it's movie memorabilia or something, separate that's based on some other property that's owned by a larger company, would you, based on the struggles you had, would you just say don't do it, or would you say, what advice would you give if someone was trying to try and approach that
Vegas,
type of an angle?
Vegas. Go to Vegas.
Yeah.
Las Vegas, they have I think it's in Las Vegas, they have a whole convention, of course, for every convention is held in Vegas, about licensing and all the properties for whatever you want. There's just a ton of them that come out, and you can, go and basically sign up, talk to people about, what you want to license, what they're willing to license you, what channel of distribution you can do for that. And you can just find, there might even be stuff you hadn't thought about. Oh, I could make this on the licensing. And then once usually you get in, and there's also people you can hire. Obviously, if you don't have the money and you're starting out, you're not going to be hiring anybody who do this, and they know all the people on the inside and in the industry. But you can also just, look up the number for Warner Brothers Consumer Products and call the front line, be like, hey, I'm interested in this movie, and I'd like to license it, and they will find the executive who's responsible for that, and get you in touch with them generally. They've gotten a lot better about it since my day and age, about, reaching out to people. So, but yeah, I mean, you can go to, there's trade shows, there's a lot of, you can get into it. You just have to find the right contact, and a little bit of research should be able to do that.
Yeah, so is it licensingexpo.com? Is that the one for the Vegas?
I think sure that sounds familiar.
Okay.
Because that's where my licensing executive would be going every year. So yeah, got to go to the show. I'm like, sounds like fun. Have a good time. Sometimes, I've been up there once, and all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, always at Vegas. I feel like I've been at least a couple dozen times in the last 5 years.
Yep.
Every conference is there, but yeah. Okay, so that's great. That's good advice for someone that's looking at doing that. So another question too is, are these licenses that you have, are they exclusive in some ways, or is it sort of any large property like that, they're just going to work in some capacity and work with as many people as possible because they want to make as much money as possible?
Yeah, generally the latter. They have channels of, you have your license, then you have channels of distribution, like, you can wholesale to big box, you can wholesale to specialty, or, so they break it up that way. It used to be a little bit more exclusive, but it's pretty wide open on things. So unless you're going to put up, you're a huge corporation, you're going to put up a lot of money, you're going to get the license, but you're going to have competing licensed people. I strictly stay away from the wholesale part. That's never been my gig. And so I avoid that. I just, we license for our online stores, and then to be able to sell our stuff on Amazon and eBay, and that's really all I've ever been interested in. I would then try to get into the bigger picture of things. So. Okay,
and so then it's just the two movies that you're licensed for right now.
Yeah, we looked at other ones like the movie Elf, and it also comes down to the show. What's really there to license? We license mostly replica products, and there's really, the only thing that really is Buddy the Elf himself is the star of the show. There's no leg lamp, there's no moose mug, bunny suit, BB gun. There's nothing really of that nature to license an elf if you look at it. And then it's also one of those more modern movies, and a lot of the rights for especially for the actors' images and all that are locked up, and they're not. Christmas Story and Christification were far more. When we're not really doing any character things from Christification, we're just doing the products replicas. So that makes it easier because there's not a lot of rights issues. But a Christmas Story for sure. 1983, what the studio probably considered a B movie that they didn't really want to make. They were just standard contracts where the actress, signed away basically everything. That makes it a little special in that sense. But if the studio comes out with a new film, you're probably not going to get the license for that one. They're going to be off the big, collectible companies who are already, in that realm. So.
Okay, that makes sense. And so the next question I was curious about is, how are you actually deciding which products to sell? I know that you mentioned, obviously, if certain movies are you going to see what's popular, and it's like, okay, well, these are natural fits, right? So it's a leg lamp, it's a BB gun, it's moose mug, that Clark's drinking from. Are you looking at, to really kind of go as wide as you can, or are you really just trying to narrow in on the most popular items and only sell those?
It's kind of a complicated, issue on which to sell and what. Obviously, we sell what sells. If we have generally an exclusive and it's something that we're making and producing ourselves, we sell a lot more of it than if we buy it from somebody else and then everybody has it. And so you're just trying to sell a few of it. If you're wholesaling it from somebody else, it's obviously going to be in every store and you're going to sell a lot less of it. That was kind of the idea with the Cleveland Street novelties is we can still do some, and we'll get some good sales off of that. It's not, like our exclusive sites, where the stuff that we make exclusively for ourselves obviously sells, at a higher, because we're the only people selling it. And you can kind of sometimes find that by sometimes tweaking a product that's already out there and then be like, well, there's that one, but ours is a little bit different, and making it better. Because a lot of companies will do the minimum. They're trying to, especially the bigger ones, they're trying to maximize their profits, so they skimp a little bit on the quality. And if you can offer a better quality, but then also the thing is, if you're selling online, is to be able to demonstrate that quality online so the consumer can see the difference. Sometimes, people can't, if they can't touch it and have the two right next to each other, they can't tell the difference in the better quality of your product you're making. So you have to have a discernible quality difference in order to sell yours for either more or just to sell it and compete with the already established product. Yeah,
okay, that makes sense. And the other thing I was interested in is the actual operational side. I mean, even just talking about, you're doing wholesaling, so you're getting some products from other places, you're doing your own sourcing from China, and there's a lot that's going on. So I'd be curious about the operational side. So first, what platform are you using for your e-commerce stores? You started in 2003 with your first one, correct? And so have you switched around a lot, or I mean, I know the game has changed.
There's a big investment there, so I definitely let the old platform run too long, and so but now we're using Magento.
Okay.
So we use that. There's a lot of plugins and a lot of things. But that was a big investment. But it's basically, and our three sites are basically all the same, except you just, change the window dressing, different products, a different banner on the top, a few things in it, but it's all the same design, for the site and for the shopping cart, and they all tie in the back end all together for shipping and order tracking and all that fun stuff.
Yeah, that's great. And then on the actual shipping side, I mean, are you shipping all of these yourself, or you have some type of another situation going on?
We do Amazon's FBA, fulfillment by Amazon, for smaller products. Bigger ones don't make sense, but we've also actually found sometimes that we can, because it also costs to ship it to Amazon and do all that and pallet it, that you can actually send something so it's FBA and Prime and charge more for it, because people just want that guarantee, which is hilarious to me. Because we'll get it to you in 2 days, no problem, if you want it in 2 days. And most stuff hits the East Coast from Cleveland, Ohio in 2 days, and that's no problem. It's a few more days out to the West Coast, but we do that. But everything else, we warehouse it, we ship it, we use all three carriers: FedEx, UPS, and the post office. It depends on who's giving us the best deal on that item, and we can, with our Magento software, we can compare the price before you ship it. So different things, for different areas work better. We used to be exclusively FedEx, but that was before when you could charge people for shipping. Now, pretty much if you're $50 and over, everybody expects, thank you, Amazon, that they're going to get free shipping on their products. So that took hold probably 2 years ago. Really, hard where it's like, if you weren't offering free shipping, people are going to go find it someplace else. But enough people were doing it.
That's interesting.
And that's been a big game changer, So we track, what we're spending on shipping a lot more because we're paying for it and we can't charge for it anymore.
Yeah. Just to backtrack on one of the things you mentioned, so you're using FBA for the smaller items. Are you doing that even for the items that you're selling within your own Magento store, and then just kind of syncing the data?
Yeah, we're probably selling about half of our stuff on Amazon. I mean, I buy everything on Amazon personally. It's just become a juggernaut. It's huge. It gets all the traffic, gets sales. People, and like I said, people trust it. They have an Amazon account, they have their Prime account, they're going to get the free shipping. And Amazon's done a good job on guaranteeing if you want it 2 days and you got a Prime account, you're going to get it in 2 days, with very few exceptions. So people know it and they trust it. And it might be the first time they're on your side in particular. And then and people have that one bad experience, buying something from an e-commerce store where the company just didn't put the effort into getting it to them on time and it's missed, or they had trouble getting hold of customer service. That's not us, but I've had those, and people have had it where they just default me like, if I order from Amazon, I'm not going to have a hassle. And then I also know, if I don't like it, I can return it and get my money back. And also no hassle. So that's why Amazon is such a big deal and such a force today. I don't know if I was starting out today, if I'd even almost bother with my own website, and I would just go to sell on Amazon and eBay, because they're that big. So because you have to consider the cost of developing your own website. There's cheaper ways to do it if you're just starting out, but there's the exact consideration of, I've got to pay somebody to work on this website. If I could just sell it on Amazon and pay Amazon's fee as I go along, as opposed to making the large investment up front to get the website up and running, and the website has to index and a lot of things. So there's a lot of investment there that doesn't pay off right away. Whereas I put something on Amazon, it's sold, I got some money. Excellent.
Yeah, I mean the vast majority of listeners here, they are primarily selling on Amazon to start, and then they're probably in the stage where they're looking at building their own e-commerce store to try and help diversify their revenue a little bit. And then obviously when you started, Amazon wasn't as easy as it is today in terms of listing and selling items in that way. So that's curious too. I mean, 50% is going through Amazon, and you're doing your small items through FBA. Do you foresee that so you have your own warehouse space as it is now, right?
Yes.
For the other items? Okay. And so do you foresee a future where it's almost like you just have to have all your items with Amazon because of the future of their drone delivery and all the other stuff they're planning?
They're never going to get drone delivery.
You don't think so?
No, that's just not possible. There's a liability. The lawyers are going to get involved, and it's not going to happen.
I don't know. I mean, I just saw a little video of Jeremy Clarkson from Top Gear talking about the future, and they showed some actual drone footage and all that. And I don't know. I mean, I'm hopeful as a consumer, and also I know it will be helpful for sellers, I think, because it'll further help grow Amazon to the point where you have to sell there, basically.
Well, my thing's what happens when the drone crashes into somebody's cars. They're driving down the freeway and they crash into 3 other cars and 3 people are dead. All to deliver a $5 item. Amazon is out, tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars in liability and insurance payments. So that's where I don't see it working. I just look at the dollars and I'm like, yeah, I'm not sure about that one. Hey, but I might be wrong.
It'll be interesting either way, right? Yeah. I mean, it's coming up here, so that's cool. All right. So then, but on the other side too, I looked at, ahead of our call, I looked at your Red Ryder Legs Lamp site, and I found a team page, and I counted what appeared to be about 16 total team members. Is that accurate?
Yeah, we probably have about 16 people working at the warehouse. I think right about now we have 40 employees total.
Okay.
So, both between the house and the warehouse, some people, are back and forth. So that's about it. Yeah, we probably about 16 people. That's about what it takes to run one of these things. And we always have some temporary workers who come in always during the Christmas season, and then we go back to our core employees afterwards.
When did you take did you make your first hire with this business, and then going on from there?
October 1st of 2005. I made my first hire, which was always nervous, because that just takes your business to a new level. You have all these, employment things to handle, and it's where the admin probably started building up at that point. Because other than that, you're doing it yourself. My friends would come out, help me, box up shades. I'd give them a couple bucks or buy some pizza. They just thought it was kind of fun. Parents would help me with stuff, and so that just brings on that's a whole another dimension to your business once you hire somebody to work for you. And then you get a payroll company, and then then all the policies start to flow, because if you own the business and you're the owner, no one will ever care as much as you. You're some people will come close, but you have to understand there's different motivations between being an owner and being an employee.
Yeah. So in those cases, I mean, I know this is a challenge with any business, but I mean, are there things that you try and do to help manage that, knowing that, like, for example, some profit sharing type thing during?
Yeah, we have a profit sharing program. We try to pay competitive wages. We have retirements for simple IRA. We have medical and making it a better than average medical plan. Things like that nature to make sure that, again, the motivation is in taking care of the employees because, you got to take care of the employees because they're the ones to take care of the customers. So that's where it kind of goes down. You don't want to have upset or disgruntled employees who aren't very happy because that's just going to trickle down out of your business. And they're helping you out. The team effort and makes all the company, run smoothly. So I try to do right by them, so that they'll do right by me. And there'll be disagreements and fun things down the road. It's all part of running a business.
Yeah. The other thing I noticed too, though, on that team page was that you're listed as the owner and founder, but then you also have a CEO. So have you stepped back from day to day and the CEO primarily runs the company, or how much time are you personally kind of spending on the business?
I've been spending less on it. I got voted out of California in 2012 and moved to Jacksonville, Florida, after they decided to pass what they call Proposition 30, raising state income tax to 13.3%, which started hammering my business profits, and the money that we could reinvest. Angela Dickerson took over, and she runs all the day-to-day stuff. So I'm in Jacksonville, Florida, the business in Cleveland, Ohio. Kind of taking some time and looking at what I want to maybe do next. But I still weigh in on things, but she does a great job running everything, and so I'm pretty much at ease. With her capable hands.
Interesting. So you've pretty much gotten to the point where I think a lot of entrepreneurs, maybe this is their goal, is to get to the point where they build a business up to the point where someone takes over and then they're just more of a very high overseer, or they do other business. I mean, is that what you're doing? Are you doing another business?
Yeah, basically just kind of, you would say the higher overseer, making sure everything runs well, or, kind of the yes, no, or maybe. But don't take that as your goal if you're trying to start your own business. It's kind of it's the myth and hard. That was the first thing when I would help you. Like, don't think that if you're like, oh, I want to spend more time with my family and have more independence and freedom. Maybe the independence, but more freedom. You're going to be strapped to your business for so many years. It controlled every aspect of my life and where I went. If we went on vacation, I was still working all the time, answering customer service emails, doing this, that. But we got to go on very few vacations because I'm like, I just can't go at that time. We have this to do, or I got that coming in. And so, if you're trying to do it for that reason, don't. If you'd rather be more independent and not work for a corporation, sure, start up your own business. But if you're looking for the freedom and, more time with the family and the kids, my success is generally the small business myth. That you can get to go to the 4-hour work week and just do nothing. So,
I'll restate that you started in 2003. So for people that are listening,
okay, I've been doing this for 12 years, and just the last couple of years I've kind of taken some time off and having Angela run everything. So
okay. And the other thing that's really interesting about your business is that it's Christmas oriented, so you have I'm going to assume the vast majority of your sales are coming in November and December. What percentage is the split?
I'd say it's probably about 70% of our business. It probably used to be even higher, but like I said, we started kind of trying to branch out into some more collectibles and other things to kind of even it out. But that also keeps pays the bills in the off season.
And that was. Sorry, I was going to say that was the main reason. The main reason why I was asking that question was to try and set up the how are you preparing for such a short window of sales in that time period when, essentially at this point now you've been going for a longer time period, so you can presumably weather more potential inventory mix-ups or anything like that. But, you're trying to order for a time period that's very specific and things need to sell, or, I guess you potentially holding onto it for a year using like line of credit, or what are you doing? And
we have a bank line of credit, and I've known business owners who didn't have one. I was like, "Be serious? What happens if you run into some problem or something?" Because the bank will never loan you money when you need it; they loan it to you when you don't need it. My banker told me that. He was right. We have a line of credit. We use that basically to bring in inventory and then pay it down during the Christmas season. We've sometimes gotten things wrong, but I would rather have more inventory. It always sells. We sell through stuff. We can either put it on sale or we just keep it to the next season. I just don't have to spend as much money in the off season the following year. Because if I sell it all, I got to replace it all. If I don't sell it all, I don't have to replace it, so I don't have to spend that money. And as long as I've gotten most of the stuff right, we made a good profit. It's not a big deal. That's just a future profit, and I don't get too torqued up about it. Because I'd rather have stuff in. Because we still sell, leg lamps and stuff year round. So if I sell it all, like with Chinese New Year, I'm not going to get anything till May or June. Back in stock if it sells out. And sometimes to get the discounts and to get, or if you're designing your own product, you got to buy in huge bulk. So I know when I'm buying some of this stuff, it's 3 or 4 years of inventory. So I just factor that in. I think a lot of people don't factor that in. I think that's kind of gets my advantage. So like why a lot of people won't do it. I'm like, well, I'll sit on it for a couple of years, and it's basically an investment. And sometimes, like the first year, we'll pay for the product, pay what we had to pay to get it. And the second year is the profits. And as long as you're able to stagger products like that, and that's what we do is, 1 year, okay, we're going to make this and bring in, a whole 2 or 3 sea containers of it. We do that, and, then it sells over, then we wait for another product. And so basically you're staggering, that one's sold to, paid for itself. Next year's making a profit. You're bringing another one in to sell through, just to pay for itself. Things of that nature. And we have other stuff that sells straight through. And we run a whole, there's a pretty spreadsheet with lots of colors that show what we're ordering, what we're not, why we're doing this. There's lots of tabs. That's the other part of when the business gets big. You get to look at lots of spreadsheets. It's awesome. So, when we just basically figure out what we sold the year before, and then that gives us a suggested order for the next year. And then we just go through it, line by line and figure out, manually if there's a reason something that we put something on sale so it sold more than it would have, so we don't really need to order more of that, or if something was new and it sold really well, it's not going to be new next year, so it's probably not going to sell as well, so we might reduce an order. So we do a lot of analysis because there's just one shot at Christmas. So if it sells really well, you only got what you've ordered and had in stock for a month or so. To sell through, you can't get it back in because it's January or February by the time you get it in, or even if you're making it yourself, it's 6 months later. So you got to guess right, or you're gonna be out. So
yeah, that's interesting. I mean, and it makes sense too that certainly with how long you've been doing this, that you're gonna have to kind of add some complexity as you're going along in terms of tracking all these different products and line items and trying to line up what you were selling them for to then determine what the demand might be. So that's great. I had 2 other kind of final questions before we wrap up. And this first question was one that I had thought of before you mentioned that you had that CEO that's pretty much taken over everything. But 2003 you started, right? That's a long time to be running the same business. Maybe it's not that long, right? If you think of other
12
companies
years,
that you look around
as long as I was in the Navy.
Yeah. But I mean, do you ever get people saying, you'll shoot your eye out, or you hear it too many times, or any of the other types of things, or you just think, maybe I'd like to sell a business, or is that just not really something you're interested in? I'm always curious about.
If you got enough money, I'll sell it to you. Sure.
So I guess I'm not asking from my standpoint. It's more so that just of an entrepreneur to entrepreneur type question of, if that was the goal someday, or if you just figure you keep running it. Obviously, I don't see any popularity waning in those movies in the near future. So that's what I was curious about, I guess.
Yeah, no, that's kind of a question I've probably wrestled with over the last couple of years. Is like, do you stay in and take basically the payments over time, or do you sell the company and take the lump sum? Then what do you do? What about the employees? What about all of that stuff? Would it be enough to sell and not do anything ever again if you didn't want to, or what's my next move? And like you said, I'm taking a little bit of time right now, just kind of like, okay, just find out what. My kids are young too, so there's no rush to find anything new. And then maybe I wait a couple of years and they have something they want to do for a business. My wife's always had a couple ideas too. But there's no real rush either way. I may or may not, decide. And that's also part of the reason. Part of the nice part about it is there's different websites and different things. You could just sell, like, say, we're going to get a Christmas vacation. You could sell the Christmas vacation part of the business and just fall back to doing just Christmas story. So that's why there's also different websites and different platforms. Is you can sell just that section and then keep the rest and be like, okay, maybe I want to take a little bit of complexity out of it. So we sell one piece of it and we sell the business, and it's maybe a little less complex, maybe a little more fun, a little more relaxing. as opposed to the constant stress of Christmas, of getting ready for Christmas and the order cycle and all that fun stuff.
Yeah.
So.
All right, then. So the final question I have, and this is pretty much the most important one. Anytime I do these interviews, I like to prepare ahead of time, and so I saw that you recently purchased the actual Red Ryder BB gun from A Christmas Story. And if I come to Ohio, can I hold it?
I might.
Or is it behind the glass?
It's behind glass. It's in a case.
Yeah.
It's the world's most expensive BB gun, so that's why it's there.
It's quite a big ask, I guess, right?
Yeah. People ask me, have you shot it? I'm like, no, I paid $10,000 for it. It's going behind glass. I'm not going to break that thing. So, yeah, now I'm like wondering, I'm like, I really hadn't thought about that. It didn't occur to me to actually go out and shoot it in the backyard. So.
Yeah. That's fine. I don't have to hold it. That's fine. Well, cool. I mean, I really appreciate you coming on and talking about your business and some of the challenges and the successes along the way of growing it. It's a great story. I think, I thank you again for coming on and talking about it.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thanks for having me on.
Thanks, Brian. All right, and that was the episode with Brian. Thank you so much for listening to it. You can go to sellercast.com/14 to check out the show notes and see some of the store URLs that Brian had mentioned. And also, please do leave us a review on iTunes if you've enjoyed this episode. Really appreciate that. Finally, you can email me direct, chris@salesbacker.com, if you would like to be potentially on the show or if you have any suggestions for how to improve it. Thank you so much and have a great rest of your day.